Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast, where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we're currently in a series about virtual summit speakers. And today in episode 138, we are going to wrap up this long series with a rapid fire Q&A with questions that have come up in the Summit Host Hangout Facebook group, all related to speakers that I didn't fit somewhere else in this series. So we're going to cover questions like, have you had speakers drop out when you send an agreement? How can I convince speakers to participate if I don't pay them? What do I do if a speaker asks for the full summit attendee email list? Can I use presentations in my membership? There's a whole lot more, but those are a few examples. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to my free masterclass covering the 3-part framework to triple your monthly revenue with the virtual summit while building your email list for free. In this class, we cover the secret to creating a plan you can actually follow to make your summit happen, even if your business is already too busy, how to host a profitable event and land expert speakers without a huge audience of your own, and how to use the 3-part profitable summit system to triple your monthly revenue and the size of your email list. You can join that class at summitHostHangout.com/class. So the first group of questions I'm going to go over are all related to speaker benefits. And I don't have categories throughout this whole episode, but these ones all kind of fit together. And the first question about speaker benefits is, do you offer your speakers free or discounted access to the VIP pass? 100% absolutely yes to totally free access to your all access pass for your speakers. You literally couldn't create it without them, and it costs you $0 to provide them. So always give your speakers a free all access pass from participating. And I always have 2 tiers of all access passes in my event. You don't have to do it that way, especially for a first time host. But if a speaker contributes a bonus to my higher tier all access pass, they get that higher tier with all the awesome bonuses. If they don't contribute a bonus, they get the lower tier that just has access to the presentations. So I do kind of base what access they get based around kind of how much they are supporting the event. All right, next question is, I'm not sure I'll convince speakers to participate if I don't pay them. They have a bigger audience than I do. What's the interest for them to speak at my summit? And then she also asked, why do you say yes to unpaid opportunities? Or no, that was my question to you. Why do you say yes to unpaid opportunities? Think of it from your standpoint. When you're being pitched things, I bet you're saying yes when you're not being paid. And why is that? So for me, it's things like the ability to support someone I'm connected with or want to be connected with, so supporting the host, getting my name and message out to the right audience, so visibility, and growing my email list. So I better be able to, earn some affiliate income from promoting, but more importantly, promote something of my own at the end of my presentation and have a chance to grow my email list. So those are the reasons I'm saying yes. This is a whole lot easier when you have a super niche summit and set it up so your speakers benefit. So watch that masterclass I mentioned at the beginning of this episode for more details, because we do talk about how to attract speakers in that. And that's at summitHostHangout.com/class. But know that you can 100% attract speakers with much larger audiences than you, if you do it right, if you set things up right. But also remember, it's not all about audience size. Big influencers are not going to promote your summit, so don't stress about getting, any huge name people. The next question is, if you're running a summit with a VIP upgrade, do you have to pay speakers an affiliate fee? Is allowing them to offer their lead magnet enough? My answer, no, it is not enough. That is not enough to just let them promote and not let them earn any money through promotion they're doing for you that's making you money. If you're making money through a presentation they give you and expect them to share so you can make more money, you absolutely need to give them a cut of that. They worked hard to grow their email list. They deserve at least a 40% commission. And I can get very ranty on this topic, like you can probably tell. So you can listen to episode 104 for more information on why you really do need to pay affiliate commissions. It is such an easy thing to set up. More information in episode 104. Next question is, do you provide the speakers you interview with copies of the interview for them to be able to promote for pay on their own? So basically allowing them to be able to resell or reuse the interview. So for me, if I do an interview, I don't send it to them, but I probably would if they asked, because to me, it's no big deal. Like if they have something else they could use it for, if they could cut out snippets to use, if they want to put it in their membership, cool. It's their content. I'm fine with that. I've never had someone ask in all of the summits I've done, but I wouldn't make a big deal out of it if they did. For presentations, like when they are recording a presentation and sending it to me, I do share rights with my speakers, meaning they can use it however they want. It's their presentation, their content. This is your call, but know you'll get a lot more pushback from speakers if you try to say you have exclusive rights to something they create. I personally would not agree to that as a speaker. If the speaker agreement said that they have exclusive rights, I would have to back out. So just keep that in mind. And then the last question related to speaker benefits is, I'm getting a few speakers asking about receiving the whole email list for all attendees. What should I do? My answer here is that, it should be clear up front that this isn't something they should expect. They should have never expected to get the whole email list from you. So I don't outright say anywhere like, no, you don't get the list when I pitch, but I have a section in my pitch email that very specifically lists out speaker benefits and states that they can collect email addresses through promoting a freebie. It says nothing about the full email list. And then the contract I send also states that I don't guarantee any results, but that they can promote a freebie to collect leads. So if someone comes to you after you've set that up and asks about the whole list, you can just tell them like, no, that's not part of what's included. Here's how you can collect leads. And if you need to, you can point them to GDPR guidelines, because collecting someone's email address for something and then sending it to like 20 plus speakers is definitely not within GDPR guidelines. So you can always pull that one out if you have to, but usually I just say something like, no, that's not included, but here's how you can collect leads. I guess I've never actually had to say it, but that's what I would say. Short, sweet, simple, keep it upbeat and positive. All right, so my next section of questions we have here is related to people kind of putting on second summits or questions they've come up with after hosting their first summit. This first question is, could I repurpose the different speaker presentations from last year's summits and add them as bonus modules to my current membership? I'd be sure to include the speaker's information so members can reach out to them if they wanted to work with them. So for this one, unless you have exclusive and full rights to the presentations and a signed contract, you cannot do this. You cannot just start using their presentations for other things. In most cases, you will have permission to use the presentation in the context of the summit and nothing more, unless you claimed those rights in an agreement. So if you do want to go back and do this and your summit's already over, just email each speaker, contact them all. You'll have to do it one by one and ask them if they're okay with it. Be sure to focus on benefits when you do that to increase the likelihood that they'll say yes. Let them know how many members you have, how you'll feature them, how you'll link to them, all that good stuff. Ask them what questions they have, but go and ask each speaker and only do it if they agree. Then you can also build this into future summits you have coming up and make sure it's clear in your pitch and agreement how their presentations will be reused. And again, position it as a benefit to them. We're going to get you awesome exposure and some leads through this summit, and I'm also going to continue to feature you moving forward in my membership. Position it as a benefit, but make sure they know about it. You'll be good to go. All right, next question. For those of you who have run more than one summit, I'm interested to know, did you change your speakers? And then did you change all the topics compared to the previous summit? My answer here is definitely change up your speakers and topics. Past attendees will likely be the quickest to participate and buy your All Access Pass in future summits. And having basically a clone of a previous summit isn't going to be any fun for them. My past summit attendees are the first ones to be signing up and grabbing the All Access Pass when I announce my summit each year, but that wouldn't be the case if I always hosted the exact same thing. But with that being said, it is totally okay to repeat some speakers and topics. Like, I always go back and invite my top performing speakers from an affiliate standpoint, as well as the standpoint of the reception that their presentation got. So I'll go back and sort all my speakers based on affiliate commission and how much money they brought in, and I'll pitch the top people there. And I'll go back and look through the attendee feedback surveys and see, who their favorites were. I'll invite those people back as well. And that's a big part of being able to grow the last run of my summit from $60,000 to $92,000, was focusing on bringing back the top performing speakers and then going and finding more people like them. But in addition to doing that, also change it up. So if you're asking this question because you're just not sure what other topics to talk about or what other speakers to find, ask your attendees. So in your post-summit feedback form, ask attendees what other topics they'd like to learn about, what other speakers they'd like to learn from, to gather ideas for yourself. And if it's too late to do that, just poll your audience, send an email, poll on social media. I did that for my most recent event. That's how I got a lot of ideas for my speakers. See who people want to hear from. All right, a few more kind of random questions here. Next one is, have you ever had any speakers drop out when sending them a speaker agreement? If so, what was it about the agreement that they didn't like? So as of recording this, I have sent a speaker agreement to about 90 different speakers, and I've never had anyone respond negatively. One speaker did come back and ask me to revise the terms to say that I would not use her presentation in the evergreen version of the All Access Pass, so she didn't want me to keep selling her presentation after the summit was over, but that's the only pushback I've ever received, and I was happy to go in and say, oh, okay, she's not going to be included in the evergreen version of the All Access Pass, that's fine. But I think that this has to do with how I present the contract to my speakers and the fairness of the terms included in it. So I don't present this as something that puts pressure on them, but I present it as, hey, here's this agreement that you'll sign so we know who has rights to what. Like I position it as a benefit. And I also give them full rights to their presentation. So it's not something that's ever going to be a problem. I also point out that I don't include what I see as silly terms with things like due dates and promotion requirements. I'm not including things like that in the contract. It's literally focused on things that matter. So terms I have personally seen in contracts before that I wouldn't agree to include the host claiming all ownership of my presentation and content. Them saying they can use it however they want in the future, I probably wouldn't agree to that. I would push back if there were certain promotion requirements that I wasn't going to meet. And if someone said they were sharing the email list with all the speakers, that shows me that our values don't align, that they're not really following best business practices. So I would push back on that as well and probably pull out of the event. So I've never had someone pull out because of what I sent them, but those are some things that would be a red flag for me as a speaker. 2 more questions. The next one is, what guidelines did you provide your speakers before they recorded their presentations? So I like to have on my speaker information page a section on the page that gives them guidelines as well as a PDF they can download with presentation guidelines. I keep it pretty simple. It's up to them to create a presentation that best supports their material. So I include things like how long their presentation should be. I give them suggested presentation formats like a bulleted list of, here's what you can do first, second, third, fourth, whatever. And again, I point out it's just a suggestion. An example, that part is like the outline I give them. I also suggest presentation formats. So I say slides, no slides, a mixture of the two, just your face, whatever you want. So I kind of tell them how they can record their presentation. And then I also let them know when they're allowed to pitch and how long they can pitch. So those are the kinds of guidelines you'll want to provide to your speakers. Let them decide how to create their presentation, but give them the guidelines you need so that it fits well within your summit. And one other thing I do tell them is that it's not like a webinar style presentation. It's a presentation where attendees should be able to walk away with an action step to implement, not feeling like they're missing something and need to go buy a product. And the last question we have here is, how much time do I allow myself to pitch and confirm speakers? Is asking for pre-recorded videos a month from now too early of a deadline? So my thoughts here are to give yourself a month to pitch and a month to get presentations after the pitching is done. So if you pitch someone, a month before the deadline, I think that's totally fine. Some people will even say to give less time so your speakers can't procrastinate, but they literally will always procrastinate no matter what. And giving that longer timeline ensures that they can fit it into their schedule. I would much rather have someone, say, yes, I can do it, be able to plan for it, and then wait till the last second to send it to me, then say, no, my next 2 weeks are too busy, I can't fit it in. So for example, the way I do things is I have one batch week in my business per month, and one day during that week is when I record any summit presentations. So if someone pitches me the day after I record it and they only give me 3 weeks to record, I don't have time to get to that next batch day. I'm usually not going to agree to do it because it doesn't kind of fit with the way I do things. So, I like to give speakers at least a month whenever I can. It will look like a lot of them procrastinate. A lot of them do. A lot of them, maybe that's just how they have things set up. But it allows them to fit it in their schedule. So give them as much time as you can. But also, don't feel like you can't pitch someone when you're a little bit closer to your deadline. Maybe say, I know we're running low on time here. If you need to do an interview instead, here's a link to schedule that. Kind of give them some flexibility. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this answered some of the speaker-related questions you have. If you have any more, of course, you can head over to the Summit Host Hangout Facebook group and ask. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to summithosthangout.com/138. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.